The closure of the country's biggest theme park has been described as another huge blow to the tourism industry by those working in the sector.
The park at this point have said they have no plans to sell as of yet. However, the Welsh Government have today said that they want to facilitate a quick sale to secure the future of the site.
A quick sale, you say? Well, whilst I don't have quite enough loose change to facilitate a purchase right now, what we can do is recreate the park to let its legacy live on indefinitely. My name is Moomin Littlesocks and I somehow play Planet Coaster professionally and have decided to task myself with rebuilding Oakwood theme park. Up until its unexpected closure a few weeks ago, Oakwood was the largest theme park in Wales and stood proud since 1987. Home to arguably one of the best coasters in the UK, Megaphobia, it's clear a lot has the potential to be lost. So join me as we attempt to recreate the park to scale, keeping the park alive within Planet Coaster 2. Just a couple of notes before we begin. I, unfortunately and unbelievably, have never been to Oakwood, so I will be doing this entire project from satellite imagery, reference photos, and copious amounts of park tours from YouTube. Whilst I'll obviously credit any content shown, I want to say a huge thank you to all the fantastic content creators that made this possible. If you've uploaded a video on Oakwood, chances are I've watched it during the research for this build. Secondly, whilst I'm going to try my best to stay true to the park in its most recent state, we may change certain attractions or features due to game limitations or simply in an effort to improve the park design. But if any of the purists out there are perturbed by any of the decisions I make, just let me know in the comments. This park is for all of us. Finally, a huge thank you to Frontier for giving me 2 weeks early access to Update 3, which includes the Western Pack. It's already been invaluable, as you'll see. Anyway, enough waffling, let's get on with it, shall we? The first and most important step was scale. I knew I wanted to build Oakwood 1-to-1, which involved a little bit of prep work. From east to west, Oakwood measures around 1.2 kilometres, despite the park itself being quite small. The only way I could fit this into the default map size was diagonally, which I'm sure won't cause me any issues with angles further down the line. I created a measurement tool using 4-metre panel pieces, which you're going to be seeing a lot of, and popped it into position. Starting with the adjoining road, I placed a couple of vehicles for a rough scale reference, and created the road itself using pathing. Ordinarily I would use terrain paint for this, but we haven't been blessed with the gift of asphalt yet. When we do, I may replace it as I'm sure the associated pathfinding nodes will inevitably reduce performance, however minuscule. I used arc shapes for the road markings and sunk them down into the ground just above the surface. The snap distance was definitely my friend here, so eternally grateful for that new tool. I measured out the junction width in advance before doing some terrain work. I created a subtle grass bank on both sides and then used the snazzy new scenery brush tool to easily erect some thick foliage. Time to dip into our new Western Pack to create some telegraph poles, using wooden poles, sign brackets, and some cables. A lot of you watching may be thinking, why on earth are you putting so much effort into something irrelevant to the park, you bloody lunatic? Well, whilst I'd ask you to temper your aggression, my answer is that, at its core, Planet Coaster is not just about building theme parks. It's the art of crafting dioramas, nay, entire worlds, each a canvas for immersion. And must such wonder be confined to the realm of roller coasters and carousels? I created a custom UK foliage scenery brush to add more depth to the tree line and aid in hiding sightlines through to the park boundary. It's time to add some localization in the form of a UK speed limit sign. I created this using art shapes, a support pole, and some text. And yes, I spent far too long on this. A common feature on UK roads is for slow to be printed on the road on approach to a hazard such as a hidden junction. In Wales, almost all highway signage is bilingual. On approach to the real junction, there's also signage for Oakwood as well as Bluestone, which is a national park resort next door. I created this using more poles, a screen, art shapes, girders, and of course, flanges. I then weathered the sign using foliage and decals. On the park side, I formed a thick hedge using brambles. I used the curved line style of the draw tool to connect the park entrance road to the main carriageway and lovingly painted some giveaway markings. And just in case it isn't clear to anyone at this point, we drive on the left in the UK. The entrance to Oakwood theme park, whilst understated, has become somewhat iconic, with a simple curved wall complete with an embedded stone park sign. Just to make my life super easy, the wall is not only curved on the horizontal axis, but the vertical too. Yay! I raised the terrain behind and later bridged the awkward gap between the land and stone using more of the Viking wall. I used plaster and 3D font for the sign and sunk it into the existing wall. When I referenced bridging the gap before, this is what I mean. Now you know. I do wish the scale would be retained when using Advanced Move. After painstakingly mirroring the wall on the other side, I raised the terrain as before. Next we move on to the first roundabout, which was totally easy to do and didn't take numerous attempts. A huge challenge with this build is going to be the vast variation in height across the park. Even the difference from the main road down to the car park is a few meters, and going to be significant in achieving those iconic sightlines. To cover up the obviously non-circular roundabout, I used plaster pieces and foliage. In reality, this roundabout has a strange trellis-like structure, but I wasn't able to get enough reference imagery to recreate it, so I went with a couple of ash trees and some bushes. More road markings using art shapes. Back up at the main gate, we need, well, a gate. I created it using beams, pillars, and planks. A true Littlesocks classic. The diagonal planks are absolutely asymmetrical, which upsets me greatly, don't you worry. Onto the car park. Sorry, that was aggressive. Onto the car park. I did my measuring, began our descent down into the park, slapped down some more pathing, and blended the terrain. For the sake of ease, I built the car park closer to Planko's default scale, so the capacity is definitely lower than reality, but Oakwood's parking lot is teeny tiny anyway. Betwixt the parking spaces are some raised curbs with more foliage, so I did just that. I opened up some spaces for pedestrian crossings and adapted the flower beds accordingly. Are you bored of road markings yet? Good, because we're doing more now. I added what we call zebra crossings, as well as some yellow hatching to signify the no parking areas. Oddly satisfying when it all comes together, isn't it? Next, some giveaway markings at the end of the rows. Another step closer to the park entrance with the second roundabout and associated concrete pads and path and road connections. Now, the real roundabout features a custom road sign that I believe points to other Aspro attractions. But regardless, I figure we'll swap this out for a good old oak tree. The park is called Oakwood after all. However, if you guys would rather the road sign, let me know in the comments and we'll see about installing it instead. The aforementioned concrete pad is and will be home to the train station that carries guests in and out of the park. However, I understand that within the last couple of years the park entrance was moved off to the side, perhaps for accessibility reasons. This includes an extended parking area, especially for coaches, the perfect location for our spawn points. I played around with the exact layout of this connecting path later on to closer match reality. For those saying, excuse me, that's not right, don't worry, you are heard. As I start adding the final details to our car park, let me say thank you for joining me today, and I hope you embark on this journey with me as we recreate the entire park through this series. As I always do, I'll be recruiting some big names from the community, utilising their specialist skills so we can truly do this park justice, so plenty to stick around for. Due to the scale and complexity of this build, I can't guarantee a regular upload schedule. This park is very special to a lot of people, and I don't think it's something we can rush. Let's do this properly, let's do this right. In the meantime, please feel free to jump into the Planet Littlesocks Discord server. There are over 1,100 like-minded people in there already, so a great place to keep the conversation going. It's time for some pretty cinematic shots of the work so far, so sit back, relax and enjoy, and I'll catch you next time.